Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Tuesday, July 26th. That means it's time for another episode of the Power Hour. I've got the team here from Pittsburgh Power. We'll be talking to them. Then we will be getting to your calls and questions. So go ahead and line them up. 855-950-3835. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, anything at all to do with maintenance, engines, performance, fuel mileage, modifications, upgrades, troubleshooting, electronics, emissions, you name it, we'll talk about it. All you have to do is pick up the phone and dial. Phone lines are open right now. We'll get to those calls here in just a little bit. We're going to bring on the team from Pittsburgh Power. Oh, and it looks like Bruce might be on another line just coming in. All right, Pete and Leroy, you guys there this morning?
Oh, Kevin, how you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. What's on your mind today?
So, a couple of things. One, first topic would be OPS. We now have a line kit for the 2023 pack cars. They made some changes, so we had to come up with a different line kit. So we're ready for that. And on the new pack cars, instead of having a spin-on filter and a cartridge filter, it's simply a cartridge filter. So they did away with one of their filters. So meaning the OPS is even more important now, with that factor that they went to one filter instead of two.
Got it.
Probably a combination filter, but I can't imagine it's going to filter as well as two filters would.
Right. Okay, good.
And the other thing is big cam calls. I mean, 5 years ago, if you would have said, do you think you'll be selling big cam parts? I'd have said no. And it's just crazy busy. End of the day, I get a phone call. Guy says, you have big cam parts. I said, I should have them. What do you have? Excuse me. What do you have? I said, I think so. Let me go look. And I did. And I said, okay, there are three. I was going to say 350 a piece. And he said, I don't care. I just need them. No one else has them. He
wow.
said, give me some price. Again, and let's face it, it's pretty affordable to throw cylinder kits in at $350 a hole.
Yeah.
Compared to the newer stuff. But he's like, how fast can you get them to me? I need main bearings, rod bearings, headset, but that's literally 75% of my phone calls is big cams.
Wow. That's just shocking. I know. I would have never thought that either. That's crazy. Huh.
Yeah. It's busy, and a lot of people, and a lot of it is, hey, I just bought the truck. I found one sitting someplace, and it's the same thing. They're tired of the logs. The emissions, but I'm just shocked how busy we stay with big cam stuff. Right now,
me too.
Pat does our injectors is probably 2.5 weeks out. So if you would send me a pump to do, it's about 2.5 weeks before he gets to it.
You know, the one thing I could see doing in today's world, as crazy as it's gotten with parts and shortages, and it doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon, I could see successful owner-operators just saying, look, why don't I spend $15,000 or $20,000 on an older truck with a mechanical engine, put some money into it, and if I need it, it's there. It's a backup. And we could keep one of those trucks running today so much easier than we can a new truck if we had to.
Oh, for sure. There's just so much less to go wrong.
Yeah. And most of the parts that could go wrong, you could either use a different part or you could make something or, it's mechanical. We know how to, make a part if we have to on certain things or find one somewhere else. But the big thing is what you just said. There are so many less failure points on one of those trucks.
And a lot of, even like injectors, it might not be the right one, but we can make one work and you can get away with it. There's not an ECM saying, wait, that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. On mechanical parts, we can MacGyver things a little more.
Yep, we can throw a pump virtually on from any small cam or big cam would get you home.
Yeah.
Injectors, again, hey, it's not the right part number, but if we change the cup or we change the flow, it'll be fine. Turbos, you got some Ranger. Okay, it's a little sluggish, but you can make do where you couldn't do that on an electronic engine. It's right or it's not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Speaking of injectors, I was watching, was screaming hot here the other day, so I wasn't going to go outside and do anything. So we were binge watching a show on cruise ships, and the ship was in the port and they were getting ready to leave, and they had to replace an injector. The damn injector was like almost 5 feet long. I mean, one person could barely carry one of these injectors. It was kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those series where they're doing, and they literally crawl inside the engine.
Yeah. The funny thing was, even though this injector is so big, one person was having a hard time carrying it, changing that injector was pretty darn easy. It was way easier than what we have to do on a truck. They had this big cover. They take the cover off, the injector's right there. You know, they take off a hold-down bolt, they pull the thing out. Changing the injector is actually pretty simple.
And they seem to do a lot of shows I watch, even with like military ships. They do a lot of repairs out at sea.
Yeah.
After you're not getting a tow truck to get home.
Yeah, well, and they spend a lot of time at sea, and they're a long way away from port, so yeah, I guess they have to.
That would be something to spend a week working on one of those engines. That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's different when you're like clear, but you're like in the engine, you know?
Leroy. I'm out here. I'm caught around the liner.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. I can't even remember like the numbers, like horsepower and torque and all that stuff, because it's so crazy it doesn't even register. But it's funny because you look at the engine, you can identify all the parts. I mean, it's a diesel engine. It's just really, really big.
And they're pretty low RPM as well, I believe.
They are, yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty common for them to run around 900 or 1,000, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was still too fast.
That may be. They may even run some of those really big ones slower than that.
I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Leroy, do you have your headset on?
I do.
Okay. Maybe put your mic a little closer. You were doing this weird kind of fading out thing.
Oh, I don't know. Jordan's messing with something over there.
That's much better. That's much better.
Yeah.
There we go.
Change the dial. That was mine.
Yeah. He's messing with the buttons. All right, Pete, do you have anything else?
Nope, that is it for me.
All right, Leroy.
No, one other thing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Nope. We're done. Moving on. Any of the new trucks. So if we don't have a line kit, if someone comes out with has a new truck, wants to put an OPS, and we don't have a line kit, give us a call. We'll get one made up so that we do have it. I'm sure we're going to run into some of the newer trucks that we don't have the line kits for. Make one.
That's a good point. Back in the day, we used to have to make kits for all of them. They didn't have line kits back then. We used to have to make them up.
Makes it a lot easier when they have a kit.
Oh, much easier. Yeah. All right. Leroy, what's on your mind this week?
You sure you're done, Pete?
I'm done.
Sure.
Positive.
All right. I had an interesting one remotely. There was a guy that we did a tune on an ISX for, and he kept complaining that he was having fault codes for misfires after we had done the tune. And we revisited it 2 or 3 times, and we can't quite figure out why it has a misfire. And a lot of these things are like checking injectors or checking this or checking that. I mean, this is a really new truck. It's like a 20 or 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that just something in the back of my mind just remembered that there was a service bulletin on QuickServe on Cummins that was, if you put an aftermarket exhaust gas pressure sensor on, and it's not a genuine OEM one, certain aftermarket ones give the ECM a wrong reading, which makes it throw a false misfire code. So I had talked to the guy, and he said, yeah, when we did the tune, you had suggested that I change his exhaust pressure sensor because it was reading a little bit off with key on. So normally what you do to check those is you just turn the key on, the engine not running, and the exhaust pressure should read the same as the barometric pressure. So I saw that his was a little off, and I suggested he changed it. Well, he put an aftermarket one on, and that ended up causing his misfire codes.
Holy
so I
cow.
thought that was pretty.
Holy cow.
I mean, I don't blame
if first off, if you wouldn't have been reading bulletins and paying attention to that kind of stuff, which a lot of people don't, you wouldn't have caught this. If you wouldn't have remembered that you saw something about that, how hard would this be to troubleshoot if you didn't know that?
Yeah, because the like logic and the way that it figures out how the engine is misfiring, it uses the exhaust pressure sensor to figure that out. And that would be next to like impossible to figure out. It was kind of crazy because it read okay. The key on, but it must be while it's running it gave a bad sensor reading. And I remember I saw that on, like I said, I saw it on Cummins. And I was like, that's kind of weird. And then it just brought back just something sparked in the back of my head. And that guy was ready to drop, I don't know, what's the set of injectors, Pete, for an ISX? 6,000 or 7,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
There were those piece. And I don't blame the guy because they're having a hard time getting those sensors. I got this one off of Amazon. Well, it didn't work. So.
Here we go back to the difference between mechanical and electronic. So here's a case where the part is supposed to work. It looks right. It fits right. Everything plugs in and bolts up and does everything it's supposed to do, and yet it won't function properly. And how would you know that? And I just dealt with this when I was setting up all the audio stuff for the new show and trying to work on, a mobile setup for, some of our hosts that are on the road all the time. And I spent an entire day trying to chase down one stupid problem. I couldn't get one thing to work. And it turns out that when you use adapters from like standard USB to USB-C, the adapter looks the same. You plug it in the exact same way, but they don't function the same way internally. Almost everything works, but that one problem. And I don't even remember how I figured it out. I think I just happened to be trying something and put a different adapter in, and then things started working. And it turns out that some of those adapters don't always work the way they're supposed to.
And I've seen for stuff like that where you need a powered adapter, but places will sell unpowered passive adapters. It works just fine, but the sensor the one you're trying to convert doesn't have power on it, so it'll never work.
Yeah. So that's challenging, boy. That I don't know. That could have been one of those trucks that somebody just either dealt with that or eventually sold it because somebody wouldn't have figured it out.
Yeah. It was a new one. I got really lucky that I remembered that. I don't know. It was maybe send the injectors out. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Good catch. All right, what else you got?
That was pretty much it. So
all right.
That's all I had.
All right, time to hear from Mr. Mallinson. Bruce, welcome.
Well, I thank you, Kevin. I have several things.
All right.
About once a week, I have to explain to people over the phone how you check if you don't have a computer for a miss. And sometimes the computer won't pick up the miss. And if the engine's hot, I tell them to take a bucket of water, 2 shop rags with the hood tilted. And if it's at a certain RPM, whether it's 1,000, 1,200, whatever, or if it's at an idle, set your cruise to hold it right where it's missing. Stand by the exhaust manifold and touch 1 and 6, 2 and 5, 3 and 4. Now, number one cylinder is up in front by the radiator. Number 6 is by the firewall. So 1 and 6 are sisters, 2 and 5 are sisters, and 3 and 4 are sisters. 3 and 4 get hottest the fastest because they have the exhaust coming past them from the other 2 cylinders. So 1 and 6 stay cooler longer. But when the engine's really hot and you touch that manifold with those wet rags, it's going to sizzle right off. And you keep touching each port with the wet rag. And you'll cool the manifold down to the point where the cylinder that is missing will stay wet. So if number 2 is wet and number 5 is dry, number 2 is your cylinder. So
good old school
maybe I ought to do
troubleshooting
a
there.
video of that and refer people to that. When the engine's stone cold, you just start it up and you hold it and you touch the exhaust manifold with your fingers. Everyone says, well, I'll use a heat gun. Well, the heat gun works, but you got to make sure you're touching the same spot on each cylinder, because if you're touching a spot that has thicker cast iron, it's giving you a false reading. Okay, next to buying parts online on eBay. Seems like people want to sell turbo parts on eBay. And a friend of mine, client, purchased a compressor wheel and housing for his 14-liter Detroit. And he put it on, and he went from, with our turbo, he made 38 pound of boost. With the new wheel he put on, new wheel and housing, compressor side, fresh air side, he went from 38 down to 25. And it took a lot longer to spool up. He went too big. It's the same as taking out your 355 rears or your 370s or 336s and putting in 228s and expecting to drive the truck in overdrive.
Right.
When we go down, when we drastically raise the gear ratio, the 264, 247s, 228s, you also are dropping down a gear to compensate, but you can't drop down a gear to spin the turbo. So when you go too big on the wheel, it's like going, you had a Mastercraft ski boat, right?
Yes.
And it basically ran about a 12 pitch and 12-inch diameter prop. Is that what they were back then?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
But let's say you took that 12 pitch off and you put a 16 or an 18 on. It wouldn't pull you out of the water.
Right.
You think, well, I'm going to gain top speed. No, you don't gain top speed, because you still have to push the boat through the water. And it's the same with going to that bigger wheel on the turbo. I'm going to get a whole lot more air. No, you don't, because you don't have enough horsepower to turn that wheel. That wheel is going through the air like a propeller in water.
Well, we've talked about the
so you gotta
same.
Be really careful.
Yeah, we've talked about the same concept when we talk about some of these really, really fast gear ratios. And if you calculate it out, the truck should go 130 miles an hour. Except it's never going to be able to do that, because it won't have the power to get through the wind to get up to that speed. Yes, your gear could run out to that speed, but you don't have the power to be able to do it.
That's correct. So now when you buy them on eBay, you can't return them.
Yeah.
This particular guy spent $1,500. So he called me, wanted to go to a much larger turbine housing. Well, now when you go to a larger turbine housing, you're decreasing the velocity of the exhaust going through there to turn the turbine wheel. So I could have sold him a turbine housing, and it would have only made matters worse. And I kept asking him all these questions, and finally it came out what he did. I said, well, you got to call those people and send that wheel and housing back, and they wouldn't take it back.
Oh, yeah, that's...
And this happened to me years ago on a K-Series Cummins, a 19-liter Cummins. There was a guy in Illinois, he built turbochargers for tractor pullers. I heard about him, called him. He talked a good story, sent me this wheel and housing, and I put it on the guy's truck. And again, we lost a lot of boost, lost response. I called the guy, he wouldn't take it back. And I said, well, that's enough of that BS. I won't deal with people like that and people that I don't know. And so I'm getting that again. I'm getting phone calls of people buying stuff on eBay, and when they have problems, they can't return it. Now they need my help. And you know what? I'm kind of reluctant to want to help, because you already spent your money on eBay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one thing. Number two, you recall several months ago, I told you we just spent $62,000 on new equipment for the dyno.
I do recall.
And Taylor Dyno, shortly after that, supposed to send 3 techs out to install these parts. We still haven't got the 3 techs. Twice we've been promised. We've shut the dyno down for a week because they said they're going to need it in 3 to 4 days. So we schedule around it. And they were supposed to be here this week. They're not here this week. So now they're promising us at least 1 tech for next week. And then I think about this. No wonder when you walk into some truck dealerships, you see parts being stored in their dyno room. I just wonder how many truck dealerships, the owner of the dealership really isn't into trucks and performance. Does he really care about that dyno and is being accurate and is he keeping it up to date? Because these damn things are expensive.
It sounds like it. Yeah. The difference probably is it's one thing to just say we're going to throw the truck on the dyno to see what, the horsepower and torque is. That's what everybody thinks of. But how often do you guys use the dyno as a troubleshooting tool?
We actually drive the truck and go through the gears and look at the rate of acceleration. I've watched dyno operators. They get in, push it to the floor, let it go up against a dyno, and then they turn on the pump and fill it with the drums with the water, because that's what's actually slowing it down is water. It's like 2 torque converters pumping water. And they suck it down to 1,200 RPM. Say, here's your horsepower, here's your torque, but they don't look at the rate of acceleration. They don't actually drive the truck on the dyno. But Leroy could explain that better than me because he's the one that operates it. And another thing, one of the major truck dealers in our area, they have equipment to clean their DPFs, and they had one they couldn't clean. And they brought it to us, and, we had the DPF Alternatives equipment. DPF Alternatives is a franchise based in Denver, Colorado, and they have phenomenal system for cleaning. And we were able to save that DPF and save that guy several $1,000s from having to buy a new one.
Well, I have to say, when I was there this last time, 2 things I was just really, really impressed about. Both in the same building. The setup for OPS, because I've been involved with OPS just about from day one, and I've been to the factory in Connecticut when it used to be there, and I used to think, what are they thinking? They were in one of the highest priced real estate markets around for commercial real estate, and they had probably 4 times more square foot than what they really needed. And when I saw how you guys set up that building in such a small space, it was so much more efficient. And then when I saw the other side with the DPF Alternatives, I was blown away by how comprehensive that program is.
Yeah. It really does a great job.
Yeah, I was shocked at how many different procedures you guys put that DPF through.
And then if you don't get the readings you want the first time, you go back and redo it a second time.
Do it again. Yeah. Yeah, it was, like I said, I was impressed.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
All right. Time to get to
phone calls.
Some phone calls.
I thought one thing, talking about used trucks. There's a rancher in eastern Montana, has a 1997 FLD 120 for sale, DDEC 3. He said he has every part we have on it, the radiator, charge air cooler, tire box, and the list goes on and on. He said the truck wants for nothing. It gets taken care of at 3Ds. 3Ds in eastern Montana, it's a truck repair facility. And they can tell you all about the truck. And the upgrade that it needs a new interior. But mechanically, this truck sounds really good. Fresh rebuild on the engine not too long ago, and he's asking $45,000. If anyone's interested.
I would have to say, over the years, I've, switched trucks and tried different things. And, for a long time, I bought a truck based on the engine. I always wanted, a Series 60. And the Freightliner products, I hated the trucks. I just have never been happy with the quality of a Freightliner product. And I'd have to say, though, I think the FLD might be the best truck Freightliner ever built.
Well, Gully Transportation, he loved the FLD 120. And when Freightliner dropped the FLD, then he basically dropped Freightliner.
Yeah, I
he was
nothing.
A Freightliner dealer, Michael Gully.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, he was a Freightliner dealer.
Yeah,
he had two body. Last time Pete and I were there, he had two body men, and he would buy FLDs with N14s were his choice, and he had several hundred of them. And he would do body off the frame restoration, and when they were finished with those trucks, my God, they looked and performed brand new. They
wow.
might even looked a little better brand new truck.
Yeah, there's nothing overly exciting about an FLD with an N14, but that may be one of the most practical trucks ever built.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just good, solid trucks.
The fast fuel system was invented on an FLD 120 with a 444 Cummins. So.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, let's get to some phone calls. Let's get started today in Utah. Brian, welcome to the program.
Hey, guys. I thought of another question I wanted to ask while I was on hold. So how much does a normal engine fan, how many CFMs does that pull? And the reason why I ask is I talked to Steve Crone the other week when I saw him, and he has electric fan set up, and I'm just wondering how many CFMs do I need to look for if I want to go that route?
Oh,
Did you ask Steve?
He said his electric fan pulls 4,000.
4,000 CFMs.
He would be the guy that
enough?
Would know all of those numbers. I used to know all these numbers because we did this. We kind of gave up on the whole electric fan thing. We've tried it several times. The one thing we definitely figured out, and I'm not sure about Steve's setup right now, is he using multiple fans?
I think he has one big fan. I don't remember. But I was looking on Summit Racing, and they have like two 15-inch fans that pull like 6,500 CFM, which would be more than his.
And that's kind of what we settled on, was that if you were going to do it, it probably made more sense to use multiple smaller fans when you went with electric.
Okay. All right. Well, that's just something I thought about on hold. But my main reason is...
Wait. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. What kind of truck do you have?
2000 Mack E7 460 Eaton 13 speed with 373 rears.
Okay, good. How often is your fan on?
Well, I'm pulling doubles and I pull some weight sometimes. So when it's been hot everywhere and on all those grades, it kicks on quite a bit off and on.
So are you in the 130,000 pound range?
No, I'm maximum 80,000. These doubles that I pull, I mean, they just pull like dogs, like a brick.
What part of the country?
All over. And that was my next question that you can go into, and this is for Bruce. Now, you say about running on the flats where your pyrometer and your boost should be. Now, I'm going to be going across I-70 across the Rockies here later on today or tomorrow. Where should I be looking to run my boost and my pyrometer? And that's the main question I was calling for, is where should I have that going over major pulls?
Where is your thermocouple, in the exhaust manifold or the exhaust pipe?
You mean the probe?
The thermocouple or the stinger
probe,
of the probe, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Okay, the probe, it's right after the turbo.
Right after the
about
turbo.
5 inch. Yeah, probably about 5 inches.
So you have to add 300 degrees to that. So at 1,000, you're at 1,300, and that's kind of your cutoff.
Hey, Brian.
Okay,
Hey, Brian.
good. Yeah.
Do you like to barbecue?
Well, pulling the hill coming out of off that Freedom Bridge yesterday, that bypass Hoover Dam, and that big pool coming up, and being so warm yesterday, my pyrometer was showing just about 1,000 degrees.
Got it.
So I downshifted and stuff, and it started to come down.
Yeah, I was just going to say the fuel economy right now in trucks is a lot like barbecue. Think about low and slow for everything. Low pyrometer, low boost,
I was down to about
slow
20
speeds.
miles an hour.
Well, yeah. No, low and slow. That's the way to think about fuel economy.
Okay.
And next is,
I just don't want to overheat.
What's your turbo boost? What's the maximum boost that you've seen it make?
Maximum is 31.5.
31.
And
so
here's something unique about my truck. I don't have a wastegate on my truck.
Okay.
Yeah, Mac never put one on here.
Good. So I would probably pull the hill using keeping it around 28 pound of boost.
28 pounds. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That way you have a little bit left over. And what's your RPM range? Where's peak torque on your engine?
Oh, probably. Oh shit, I'm not really sure. Probably about 16 to 1700.
Well, no, it's probably 13 to 1400. Sure. But 16 to 1700 to me is where I would pull that truck. Is where I'd keep the RPM. RPM when you're working hard is your friend. So
yeah, that's what I've been doing this morning up I-15 and stuff. So just playing with it. So all right, well that's all I needed.
On the new trucks now, it's a lot different. But you said yours was a 2015.
No, 2000.
Oh,
I have
2000.
I have a real Mac motor, the E7.
Yeah, okay.
I don't have an MPA.
Yeah. Where does your governor cut out at?
I never took it that high. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, the maximum RPMs I'll usually go up to is maybe 1,800. But usually I shift about 1,500.
18's still okay if you're going to work it hard. If you're going to work it hard, 18's okay because you're getting the piston out of the top dead center faster, which is where you generate a lot of pressure.
Okay. All right. Good information. I appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thanks for the call. We are about to get the... oh, boy. I just dropped my own call on accident, so I got to get it back. Hold on a second. We'll figure this out.
Host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Call-In Studio web interface. Audio recording is...
All right. Let me get this figured out now that...
he's back. He's back.
I'm back. I hung up on myself, of all things. I was about to say that we're going to get the official word on the electric fans because we have Steve Crone on the line with us. Steve, welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, I my ears were ringing. I had a call in here. The fan situation, anybody I talked to about it, I said, might not work in your situation. And, I removed my clutch fan because it was giving me issues. And it kind of works on this truck because of how I control the air. I've got the splitter in front of the truck, which kind of increases the pressure in the middle, and it removing the fan and shroud and all that improves the flow through the radiator. And I've got a belly pan between the tank, so the air flows, through the, past the engine that more smoothly. And if you just take your fans off and put I've got one bank of two small fans. That's 4,000 cubic feet per minute, and over half the radiator is just sitting out there free, and it works. I have a hard time keeping the temperature up. I very rarely use the fans because I try not to go heavy, and of course when you're pulling a mountain you need more, but there's plenty of room. I could put another bank in, so I just don't want people go burning up their motors, because Steve said it was okay.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to kind of hear from you on this, because I know when we worked on it, we never came up with an easy solution. There was no plug and play on this whatsoever. I think I found one fan on the market that was kind of plug and play, but they said it was really only good up to about 400 horsepower. Just didn't move enough air. And otherwise, it was a lot of just figuring it out on your own, a lot of fabrication, a lot of playing around with things. So it's not something I've been recommending to people.
Yeah, and you might, in installation, when you're drilling the holes, you might actually kind of slip with the drill and go into the radiator. That's a warning too.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my radiator's kind of cheap. It's only $600, but
yeah,
that things can happen.
Yeah.
Of course, when I took it all apart and doing all this, I discovered my charge air cooler had a big old hole in it. And I didn't even know it, and I had the power, but I have the variable geometry turbocharger that was making up for the hole.
Right. Hey,
had I been pushing hard, I probably would have noticed it, but.
Matt also said, I hadn't thought about this. Matt said, are you still running Evans coolant?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
215 degree thermostat. That's another reason it works. You don't have to worry as much. If it gets a little warm, you're not going to boil. But I found that the 215 thermostats, rather than the original 225, is just about right. I think the 225 was a bit much. And we got these thermostats from Evans. They kind of poked around, and because they had a bunch of experiments, and they found some 215, and I like it. It works really well.
Yeah, well,
happy with it.
How your truck was how I learned how to do the Evans. You and I did the conversion on your truck. It was the first one I did with Evans. How long ago was that? Man, that was back in Tennessee. Holy cow. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Wow.
That's when we first met, and you were wearing a pair of nice sneakers, I think suede or something, and the coolant leaked out all over your shoes there. I'm sorry about that.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah, we had a casualty on that. I remember that one. All right.
Yeah, that's the first time we met, and I met Lisa at the same time. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Steve, you mentioned you had a belly pan. Did you put a belly pan from the bottom of the fairing on the bumper back across? Did you go above the front axle, and how far back did you come?
There's a gap. The front splitter goes back to the back of the bumper, the curve, and it's that Mac bumper, so it's a little bit more than what the original International one is. So I don't have the numbers right, but I got a couple of feet there, and then there's a gap before the steer axle, and in between the fuel tanks, in front of just at the front of that, I curve it up. So the air is kind of naturally going to go down and underneath rather than trying to shove it past a transmission and all that. So, I've never put a camera in there with ribbons and stuff, and I guess I'd probably kind of like to do that to, prove my theory here. It just makes the most sense to me, and it's working. So, and it's not my focus right now. My focus is trailer aerodynamics. So at some point, maybe I'll do that. I'll have some kind of portable camera set up that I can put around in different places. But I would like to see that, because it would be nice, because if you can, truck manufacturers to do that, you could have smaller radiators, narrower in the front, and improve the aerodynamics, which would be nice.
Almost all the new cars, at least the Volvos and the Audis, have a belly pan. It takes longer to take the belly pan off and on than it does to change the oil. But it does keep it clean underneath. So I take the belly pan down and I wash it, and then I do my oil change and put it all back up. But it certainly has doubled the length of time.
Well, it's something I would redesign. I would definitely have panels that are removable, but it's one of the first things I did. It's one great big piece, and when we were putting the truck back together at your shop there, I was going to do that, have separate panels, but we were kind of rushed for time, so I put the damn thing back on, and I'm still putting up with it, but I'm not going to get rid of it, because I know it helps my efficiency. So I'll put up with a lot, to save fuel.
That's right.
I'll let the truck manufacturers should be working on this, not me.
Well, they should be, but the accountants won't let them.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why I should take pictures underneath or video underneath the hood when I'm going down the road to see what how the air is flowing there.
See what's going on in there.
It makes more sense in there. Yeah, exactly. It makes more sense to have it going underneath smoothly and moving through the radiator faster. So.
There you go.
So anyway, that's all.
All right, good stuff.
Steve,
So,
being you want to work on trailers, I've had this thought for years. I've been towing trailers since 1971, not necessarily freight trailers, but race car trailers, boats, and motorcycle trailers, snowmobile trailers. And the easiest thing I've ever towed down the highway is a boat. And if you think of the hull, the way it's made to turn the water down and away, it's turning the air the same way. And I've talked to several people about copying the hull of a boat and putting it under the trailer, but nobody's done it. So I'll just pass that thought on to you.
Yeah. We're working on some stuff, a fairing for in front of the axle. It kind of looks like a catamaran, sort of.
Yeah.
You'd be interested in seeing it when we're done.
Hey, Bruce, you know why you don't see a lot of that kind of work being done on a trailer?
Because of the people that a lot of times pull dry vans or switching trailers.
That's some. The other thing is with fleets, an issue for them with trailers is return on investment. If they make a change for fuel economy on a truck, it's 1-to-1. You have one truck. For every truck, you have to put a device on or whatever it is you're doing. Most fleets run 3 to 4 trailers per truck. So now they have to spend 4 times as more, but they don't get 4 times the benefit. They have to, if they're going to make the modification, they have to do it to 3 to 4 times more trailers, but you're not getting 3 to 4 times more of a benefit. That's why we don't see a lot of this happening on trailers. But the other thing is, we've got another problem. The interior configuration, nobody wants to lose any space in there. You can't lose width, you can't lose height. You need every bit of that cubic space inside that trailer. And on the outside of the trailer, we're pushing all the legal dimensions already. So you can't really change shape on a trailer at all because of the dimensions. There's just no place to go.
Right.
Well,
A raindrop is the most aerodynamic thing because it's shaped by the wind. And if you look at a fuselage of an airplane, it's basically a stretched out raindrop.
Yeah.
But,
so that's not exactly true. It would be better if it was pointed in the front and pointed in the back. The reason it's rounded in the front is because it's a fluid, and with the going into the wind, it gets rounded. But if it's pointed in the front and pointed in the back, that's even better. But since you're talking about this in front of, or we were talking about in front of the axle, I was going to let Matt introduce this, but Matt spent a week here this week, and we did some work on his truck and trailer, and he had a fuel tank. He's got two big fuel tanks sideways, underneath the trailer, and it's like, wow, that's a problem. Telling him to turn them lengthwise, but he had one right behind the under tray. So I'm laying under there, and I'm looking, and I go, holy smokes! You can see how much air is being funneled to the middle, because that tail section on the under tray, it kind of curves in on top, and it brings the air on the side on top of that little tail section. And normally, a lot of air gets pushed to the side because of the under tray, but he has a tank that's a full width, so it was forcing more in the middle. And I could go underneath, and I looked, and you could see the water is just following the tank. The spray in that is following the curve of the tank, because air does what air does; it follows curves. So I said, "Wow, we gotta do something about this." So I made kind of a wakeboard from the bottom of the tank straight back. I don't know. Matt could tell you how many he measured that stuff. I don't know. It was a couple of feet, and I think it's going to be pretty significant. And then we put axle diffusers on too. So
excellent.
I'm hoping.
Excellent.
We put cab extenders and roof extender on the truck, and we did quite a bit of work this week. So
I saw some of the pictures. It looked interesting.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it is. I was kind of excited going under there and seeing that. I go, wow, maybe people will start putting fuel tanks behind their under trays, and But eventually, the fairing that we're working on for in front of the axle would be ideal.
Excellent.
Now it's true that the 4-to-1 with the trailers, the one thing with trailers is they keep them a lot longer.
That's true too. Yeah, so, but you know how these fleets are. They're not spending a bunch of money for fuel economy. They're just not doing it.
Oh yeah, well, they should be.
I know they should. I agree. They just don't.
I don't know if I want to get involved with. I don't know if I want to get involved with the fleets right away anyway, because they might buy a bunch of your stuff and then sue you out of existence. So we'll leave the name out of it right now.
I can tell you that I gave up on fleets a long time ago. It is it's just no fun for a lot of reasons. But yeah. All right, Steve, thanks. We got it right from the source. I appreciate it. We'll keep an eye on
Hey, Kevin.
Matt.
Kevin, you said you gave up dealing to try to deal with fleets?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I tried that 45 years ago.
It wasn't quite 45 years, but about 30 years ago for me, I thought, look, I can save one owner-operator $5,000 a year on fuel. Think about what I could do for a fleet that has 1,000 trucks. The numbers are so big, and you think, why wouldn't they do this? And you go to the fleets, and what a nightmare that was trying to work with them.
Well, Peak Ready Mix. They have many locations in Colorado, cement mixers. And I told you the story before, and they're based out of Utah, and they cover the Northwest. They buy 1,000 EGR valves every year and just replace them randomly. So they're one of their general managers or maintenance superintendent of the place in Silverthorne, Colorado. I got him onto Catalyst, and he really liked it, and he started using it. And they had a female operator, and she limped the one truck in the steamboat. And he met her there, and he traded it with the Catalyst. And within about 20 minutes, the check engine lights went away and the cement mixer ran fine. So they ran the Catalyst for a year with zero problems, zero downtime. But the powers to be in Salt Lake said, why is your fuel bill higher? And so we're using max mileage fuel-borne catalyst, but we have no breakdowns. And the people in their Glass Palace in Salt Lake said that your fuel bills are higher.
Yep, I
so
know.
The general manager took a position in Hawaii, and the maintenance superintendent went out on his own, and now he's helping the cement company out of Breckenridge, and they're running the catalyst, and they have zero problems now. And Peak Ready Mix is back to having all their emission nightmares.
Yep, I know.
And so I just shake my head.
That's how it goes. And then you just go back to working with the owner operators.
I know. I mean, there's so many. Yeah, there's so many stoneheads.
Yeah, I get it.
And I can say this. 45 years ago, I didn't know what made a diesel engine run. And I listened. I had a lot of owner-operators that did their own work would come to see me to get fuel pumps, injectors, water pumps, turbos, and things like that. And I listened. And I'd go to their shops, and I'd help them. And then I got to meet Mark Chappell, the Cummins engineer, and spent time at the Cummins factory. And I would listen and listen and listen and take notes and try.
Hey, wait a minute,
if I was a
Bruce,
stonehead, all this stuff.
You're forgetting something really important. You would listen and listen and listen, but there's something else you do a lot that most people don't.
Try.
You ask a lot of questions. Every time I'm with you, every time we meet somebody, you interrogate people almost, but that's how you learn. You ask questions all the time.
Yeah. So we wouldn't be where we were if we didn't ask those questions.
No, that's right.
Try.
Yep, that's right. All right, speaking of trying, we better try and get to the phones because they are piling up on us. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Paul, welcome to the program.
Howdy.
What's on your mind today?
That was my turbo. How's that for good timing? I'm on the way to Pittsburgh Power, and my turbo decides to die. So, but I made it here.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, when I pulled it in this morning, and they hooked up to it and everything, and he says, "Oh, you got." Well, they had to take it for a drive first, get it up to temperature, but it had 35 occurrences yesterday where the VGT wasn't working properly.
Was I talking to you yesterday and you had a boost problem?
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah. Okay. Now we know what your boost problem is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the VGT wasn't working. So
I think that was my first question. I think I asked you if you had a VGT because I couldn't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yesterday I didn't because it wasn't working.
Yeah, right.
That's why I could only get 20 pounds of boost. It was like driving an old 350.
Yeah, there you go.
Or something. I don't know. So,
there you go.
But yeah, it's in the shop on time, scheduled maintenance. But the turbo got added, but we'll get it done. They got the DPF filter out, and the guy said it looks pretty good. He's going to clean it, so that'll be getting barbecued today and tonight. So, yeah.
There you go. Excellent.
And hopefully I'll be out of here by Thursday night. Hopefully, I got other stuff needs doing as well, but yeah.
Oh boy! All right. Well, I just got an interesting picture. Looks like I'll have something to do this afternoon. Lisa just sent me a picture of the Sprinter, and the back window is just shattered out of it. Wonder what happened.
Well, there goes money.
Yeah, I know. I think she's right down by the warehouse. I wonder what the hell happened.
One other thing. When I got here last night, I don't know if Eric sent you the pictures, Bruce, but I decided I hadn't cleaned Dorothy out for 50,000 miles. So I took the bowl off Dorothy, and what a waste of time that was, because I got about a quarter of a teaspoon of soot out of it in 50,000 miles using the catalyst.
That's good.
Yeah, so...
Kevin, Bruce had to step away for just a moment, so he didn't hear that. But I will relate that to you, okay, when he gets back.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin, I mean, that's unfortunately why we had to stop making the Dorothys. And they did their job, and it was great because people could see, wow, look how much I'm catching. And then we started selling the catalyst and got virtually nothing out of them after that. So it was a great idea having that Dorothy on there, but then the next product kind of made it obsolete.
I remember when that was happening. I remember like every week I had people they were sending me pictures from the Dorothy. Look at all the soot I got. Look at all the soot I got. Then those pictures started disappearing. I'm like, what's going on? Is everybody, did everybody just quit doing it? They're like, no, we don't capture anything anymore. We started using the catalyst, and it was a really clear pattern.
And that was good proof to show people, and it kind of worked out well, that it would show people how well the catalyst worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a really good visual of, look at all the soot that's being caught, which is good. The Dorothy was working, so that was helping solve the problem. But then when we started putting the catalyst in, there was just nothing being caught in the Dorothy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Let's go to Texas. Rusty, welcome to the program.
Hey, got more questions about my high soot in my oil from last week. I tested the Charge Air cooler, and it held 20 pounds of pressure for about 3 hours. So I guess we can mark that off the list of problems.
Well, did you check the whole system or just the air-to-air?
Well, I checked the air-to-air, and first I wanted to make sure that it wasn't leaking. And then I did, I don't know for sure how to check the rest of the system. I did couple the left side of the Charge Air cooler back up to the intake, and I blew air through the turbo side. But I couldn't make much pressure. I mean, I've heard it leaks through a valve, so I don't know how to check it beyond what I did with the Charge Air cooler.
Okay, so when we test the whole system, and we normally introduce the air into the clean air side of the turbo, and then pressurize both pipes going to the air-to-air and the intake manifold, and you will lose air from the open valve. If you have a regulated source, it'll maintain, enough pressure to check it. And you kind of just listen and feel around. The intake manifold, is it cracked? Is the intake manifold mounting gaskets leaking? The hose that goes to the air compressor from the intake, is it leaking there? And there's other places for it to leak. I mean, the test you did was valid with the hooking that pipe back up, so I would think something would have showed up when you did that.
Okay, well, I basically did what you said. I probably didn't check around the intake gasket, but I did just leave pressure to it. It would only, I could only get it up to about 10. It would only hold about 10 pounds of pressure. But while it was sustaining the 10 pounds of pressure because it was hooked up to the air hose, I did spray around, and I couldn't hear anything. And I didn't see any bubbles coming up from soapy water. But I didn't hit the actual manifold itself. So I guess I could redo that. But, I guess that's what I've done. And I just was going to see if y'all had any more ideas before I just got it in the shop somewhere.
how many miles are on the overhead?
About 30,000.
And you had this prior to setting the overhead, correct?
That's right. Yeah. I've had it for a couple of years. I mean, I didn't realize that I had a problem, but looking back, I've had it for a couple of years.
And how many miles are in the injectors?
They are various mileages, but they've all been replaced in the last 2 years.
Okay. So we've seen some
fuel dilution to speak of. So.
That's good. And we've had some engines where the oil analysis shows high soot, and we've checked everything. And it's just a dirty engine, and we don't know why. That's not the first time we've seen that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, the first, 60,000, 70,000 miles on this used engine that I put in it didn't show to have high soot. So, I don't know.
And you don't have oil consumption, correct?
I mean, it's got 650,000 on it, and I'm using about a gallon every 5,000.
Okay, so nothing crazy.
Yep. But, other than that, the fuel mileage is good. My exhaust is just a standard exhaust with y'all's muffler. One question I did, I took the muffler out from under the truck, and I stuck it up the back so I could have so I could get rid of the exhaust underneath the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a slight chance I put that thing in upside down.
So did you have the quiet performance or the performance sport muffler?
The quiet. Okay, it's the long one.
Yes, that is directional. I don't think it'd be a huge difference. I know, I'm sure you're not the only person that's went in backwards, but I don't ever recall someone having a soot issue because of that. They're free flown. It's going to change it a little bit with some turbulence, but I don't think enough that would give you an issue with soot.
Okay. Well, I'll plug it back in, and I've got a really good Cummins guy. I can get it to him, and if I just completely strike out, I'm going to try to get up to y'all at some point. But the question: should I change the oil? I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but how long should I run the oil? I mean, it's affecting efficiency. Is it affecting? I guess it's not affecting much wear. I'm not having wear metals.
Now, believe it or not, the new oils can handle their claim, and we haven't really tested this claim, but their claim on a lot of these new oils is the oil has the ability to handle up to 6 to 7% soot without causing any damage to the engine. The oil keeps it dispersed so that it doesn't aggregate or conglomerate, so it could cause damage. The oil does that. So we've never tested it to see if you can get that much soot in the oil and it still not get wear metals. But if they're claiming 6 or 7 and you're at 2.3, yeah, the only real downside to this is it is hurting fuel economy some, because you see what it does to the viscosity. A good 30 weight, the new 30 weight oils, the viscosity is in the 12 range, and you're in 18. That's thick oil. So the soot is causing the oil to thicken, but the oil itself is keeping it from causing any damage to the engine.
So one more thing, and you kind of shut this down last time I talked to you, last oil sample, but I asked about putting in a synthetic makeup oil to kind of make a blend to potentially thin the oil a little bit to where it would possibly protect more. And you thought that would be, just putting a Band-Aid on a problem. But having kind of done some research, I know I don't have a major boost leak on the charger cooler and whatnot. And if we're going to kind of just run it and see what happens, should I try that now?
You could. Yeah, it's not going to hurt anything. Yeah, so you could give that a shot.
It might burn a little more, but
I doubt it. I mean, because where you are at 18 on viscosity, you could come all the way down. We don't see engines start to burn more until your viscosity gets under like 14. You have a long way to go still. You could thin out that oil quite a bit and not get down there.
Okay. Well, I'll keep looking for the problem, but I may try that until.
Okay. There you go.
Figure out something. So, all right, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go to South Carolina this time. Eric, welcome to the program.
Yeah, so I had that same issue with the Dorothy, but, when I first put the Dorothy in, it worked really good on my CM2350, and then I started using the catalyst, and it stopped working. So what I did was took a stainless steel screen for a screen door and made about a 2-inch ball and put it in the bottom of it, and it helped out tremendously.
Huh?
Stainless steel screen in the bottom of the Dorothy will collect more soot.
Really?
Will collect more soot out of the Dorothy even while you're using the catalyst.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So you modified the Dorothy.
I did. I just took some stainless steel screen, made about a 2-inch ball and dropped down in there.
Huh. Okay. Good thinking.
So the reason that I called, my brother called me Saturday and sent me a bunch of pictures of a barn find that he found. And I'm gonna buy this thing, but I don't know really a whole lot about it. It's a 1979 Chevy C75 with a 453T Detroit in it.
No clue.
And from the pictures, I was hoping Pete might.
no, unfortunately, with the older Detroits, zero experience with that. I was figuring you were going to call something with a Cummins in it.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that engine.
Yeah, it's basically a 3.5 liter, 175 horsepower engine, and it almost looks like it's got a turbo on the right side of it, and and the tube feeds over onto the left, and it looks like it's got that the turbo feeds into a blower. But I'm just really curious about this engine.
Wait a minute, 3.5
doing everything
liter.
that I can to find out about it.
How big is this truck?
It's a 18-foot service body with a 1,000-pound crane on it.
Huh. Okay, because I was thinking that was like a Class 5. That seems like a small engine. Huh. I don't know.
It might be 3.5 liters. It's 35. What is it? 50. It's 53 cubic inches.
Is it 4-cylinder?
Yeah, it's a 4-cylinder.
4-cylinder. Okay. Huh. I know nothing about it. Never even heard of it.
60 or 62 cubic inch 1 liter.
53 cubic inch, and I think it's about a 3.5 liter.
Oh,
1 liter is 61 cubic.
Yeah.
Cubic inches.
That's correct because the 5 liter was like the 302 in Ford. So yeah, that's right. That's the easy math on that one. So that's 60, almost exactly.
Yeah. If you just take a 360 cubic inches, 5.9 liter, and divide it out,
there you
comes
go.
out to 61.
Yep, that's right.
Well, I'm going to buy this thing. I'm going to have some fun with it because it just seems interesting to me.
It's
$500.
Well, there you go. Yeah, yeah. That just for the fun of it, that's worth it. I could part the
crane off of it. Yeah, I could part the crane off of it for that. You know,
exactly.
it's got,
yeah.
full hydraulic crane on it. But yeah, I was just curious if anybody knew about that. So I guess I'll do some more digging and see if I can find somebody that knows a little bit.
Post some pictures.
I appreciate you guys. Oh, I'm going to as soon as I get it up to the house.
Good.
I got 2 pictures of the body. I can post those. It's ugly as hell. The hood needs to be replaced.
Yeah. Get some pictures of the engine. I'd like to see it.
Yep, we sure will.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Charlie, welcome to the program.
Well, hello there, gentlemen. I sent an oil sample in that I'm a little concerned about.
That was last week, Charlie.
Go take a look and see what we've got.
And I did have to put the tires on this truck because of going through state inspection. I did put notations in on Friday's fuel up of what I took off and what I put on and why I did it.
Oh, so what do we got going on here? So we've got...
That's what I don't know, what that spike is.
Hold on. We've got $1.5 million on the engine. Is that correct?
Yeah, since the rebuild. Now, the bearings that I wrote in February, I can't remember the mileage on that. But it was like 3 samples ago when the lead went back down was when I put the bearings in.
Okay.
And now it's spiked again.
So that would have been around March of this year. Bruce, Pete, here's what we're looking at. Back in March of this year, his lead spiked up to 67. Did you call me on that sample? I think I remember talking about this one.
Yeah, because you advised me to roll a set of bearings in it, and so did Bruce. So that's what I did.
That's what I thought. So, yeah, back in March, we spiked at 67. I said, it's high mileage. We probably are finally seeing some bearing wear. Put some bearings in it. But now we've spiked at 52 again. The last 2 samples, the lead went down to 17. And I figured 17 is actually a little high, but those were new bearings, so you get a little bit of wear. Then it dropped to 10. That's a good pattern. But now it's jumped up to 52 again. What do we think is causing this bearing wear?
What did the other bearings look like when you pulled them out in February or March?
Bruce, do you still have them pictures I emailed you or sent to you?
I probably do. I'll have to go back and look. And
because you were out of town, and I pretty sure it was I emailed them to you, either email or messenger, one of the 2. I think it was email.
What month was that?
Would have been March.
Let's see if I.
Do you recall them looking funny, Charlie? Did they look unusual or just general average wear? Anything stand out?
Number 5 main, they had to polish the crank.
It was that bad?
Yeah. Number 5 was that bad. The rod bearings was good. They wasn't really worn that bad. It was the main bearings.
All right, I'm back into... Let me go to the beginning of March.
And that's unusual. Normally the rod bearings take the beating where the mains do. I mean, unless someone had changed rod bearings at some point, the main bearing should be in better shape.
The bearings was never changed from the initial rebuild. Because when we pulled it apart the last time, when it popped the head bolt and they finally cut the other 5 counter bores, the only thing we put in new was the sleeves and the rings. I told them to reuse everything else because it only had 380,000 miles on it.
Charlie, what's your email address start with?
Charles.Beiser.
Okay. I'm not seeing it for some reason. Let me go back through here. I'm looking all through my March.
Type his name in the search, it'll pop up. Now, were they all worn differently, Charlie?
Yeah, they were all different.
Which usually,
but number 5 was the worst.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering if we have the same thing occurring with, just one bearing causing most of this problem.
Now, when I pull my sample, the bypass that I have on here, the tube is underneath the unit. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that would have stuck in there and possibly finally came out. I got to pull another sample in about 10,000 miles. And was going to see what it looked like then, but I was a little concerned. And actually the soot came back up. So my soot had dropped way down on the 60 series 14 liter.
How high did the soot come up?
Soot.
Let's see some.
1.7. Historically, when we look back, 1.2, 1.6, 0.7, 0.8, and 1.7. So it's never been, super clean. We've kind of always been right around that, 0.7 to about 1.5 or so.
And generally, soot doesn't affect bearings. It's
right.
More of a metal-to-metal contact.
Right. Yeah, the soot's not the problem. You think we've just got, so many miles on this thing? We've just, it's probably a bunch of little things all adding up.
I think it's line bore.
Line bore.
Line bore, bent cranks.
Yeah.
So normally what we do, like a couple of weeks ago, we had that N14 in here. We lay, then I sent you the pictures. We lay the bearings out as they were in order. And you look for, uneven and unusual wear. Because generally they should wear pretty close to the same, all 7 main bearings.
Yeah.
In the same position, not left side, right side, that kind of stuff. And when we see it being off like that, that usually indicates a line bore issue. Now, on that N14, we had an oil pressure issue. Is why we rolled the bearings in. And we did have one bearing that was far worse than the other ones. Fortunately, the crank looked okay. My thought is if we have another analysis that shows wear, it might be worth dropping the pan and dropping the main bearing down that was worn the last time to see if it is also worn.
Yeah, we had a slight bump up in copper. Where, it was 2 and 3, and now it's 5. We may already be seeing some copper out of this bearing.
Now, what about the oil cooler? Because it's never been changed on this truck.
Would have almost nothing to do with this. No, it would have nothing to do with this.
Okay, Bruce, yeah. I just resent you the pictures of the bearings, Bruce. And an email.
I went back to January and I'm looking. So, all right, let me go on. Yeah, they're not here yet. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm with Pete. I think you're probably, even when we look at the other bearings, I think you're probably going to end up pulling the pan on this again.
Okay.
Yeah, but if it's number 5, they're not here yet, so they're somewhere in cyberspace. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I should have emailed them this morning too.
No, that's like I say. I don't know that it's going to tell us much to look at the old ones. I think we're going to have to look at these. see what's going on.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to get it set up to get it in. Get the pan dropped off of it. Do another sample first.
I would.
Yeah, it can't hurt.
All right.
Yeah, can't hurt.
That's what I was thinking.
Can't hurt at this point. You've got some time if we're just now starting to get into the copper a little bit. I'd wait for another sample.
Yeah. Because I don't know if I might have contaminated the sample. I didn't drain anything out of the tube like I had been. I had been draining a little bit out in like a Coca-Cola cup to go cup and then pour my sample.
Well, you can. It usually doesn't make a lot of difference, but I would just wait till we see another one.
Because anything in the bottom of that is going to stay there because I don't wipe it out.
Okay.
It's a filter that sets down inside. It's a cartridge filter instead of a stand-on.
Yeah. Give it. Do another one, and let's see what we got.
All right.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to North Dakota this time. John, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. I got a 2000 International 9400i with a N14. It's a 2592 on there. And I checked the antifreeze level on last Wednesday. It was plumb full. I checked it on Thursday, and it was down at a half. And then I checked it again on Saturday before I headed out, and it was back full again. I recently had an injector replaced, but the oil is also over the full mark of where I was when I did my last last checked it.
So
I'm sitting here stumped.
Let's go back to the coolant thing for a second. You say you checked it and it was half full. What were you checking that was only half full? Can't be the whole system.
The reservoir.
The reservoir. Okay.
Yeah.
The reservoir went to being half to being full.
Right. And then back down to half and back up to full. Without me adding any fluid to it.
Isn't that somewhat normal on some trucks? I mean, we're not dropping low enough to set off any sensors, right? Halfway down on a tank, I don't think it's a big deal. Yeah, I don't know that I'd be too concerned about that. I just keep an eye on it. I don't know what we would do to try to figure that out right now, but I've seen trucks that level just fluctuates some. If it doesn't go low enough to cause a problem, I don't think I'd worry too much about it right now. But you're also saying you have more oil than what you had the last time you checked?
Correct.
How much more?
It's been, it's up probably a half a gallon over the full mark.
That's a lot.
I agree. That's what made me concerned is somehow, I didn't know if it was the antifreeze or I recently, about a month ago, I had an injector replaced and it's been stable since then. I'm just trying to figure out where to go.
Well, if we saw the coolant drop and the oil go up and that's all that happened, you might assume the coolant went into the oil. But if the coolant went into the oil and that raised, the coolant went into the oil, raised the oil, but the coolant came back up. So that doesn't make any sense. The first thing I would do here is do an oil sample. Let's figure out what.
I got one on the way.
Yeah, let's just do an oil sample. I mean, the only thing I'm thinking, the only two things that can add volume would be coolant and fuel, right? There's nothing else that could get in there. Huh. Yeah, I'd wait for a sample.
All right. The other question I have is the charger, or not the charger, the air dryer. I've had this happen on a couple trucks.
where it bursts on the drying segment, all of a sudden, every so often, it'll sound like it's purging repeatedly. I always think of it as a machine gun going off, but I didn't know if we had any ideas on what could be causing that.
Dirt in the purge valve.
Okay.
It's one thing that could cause it. So I'd certainly, clean the air system, drain all your tanks, get it good and clean, and I'd check that purge valve itself.
Okay.
Where are you? Where are you located? Is it high humidity?
Midwest, Minnesota, North Dakota, make it down into Illinois.
Because I think the high humidity could be making the air dryer work harder. And right now, in the east, we have a lot of humidity.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. Okay, well,
Always.
those are the two questions. I had another one, but I can't remember it, so.
All right. Well, we can't remember the answer to it either.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know what the oil sample says.
All right. Thanks for the call. All right. What?
I never did get Charlie's pictures. I hope he remembered to put an H on the back of Pittsburgh. It ends in an H. So I did not get the pictures. And speaking of humidity, heat and humidity displace oxygen. So when it's 95 degrees out and 95% humidity, your truck will not run as good as
good point.
a cool, dry 60-degree day.
Those clear, crisp fall days are about as good as it gets.
That's right.
Yep. All right. We're going to take one more call. We're going to head off to Texas. Norman, welcome to the program.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call, Kevin. Yes, about my oil sample results, sir.
Did you send it in?
Yes, sir.
What's the name on it?
My name, Norman.
I don't have it. Oh, hold on. Angie just sent it to me. Never mind. I do have it. Let's see. So a 3406E. What year?
99, sir.
Okay. We've got 174,000 miles, I'm assuming, on an in-frame.
Actually, it's a overhaul.
Okay.
Yes,
and 144,000 miles on the oil, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see. Everything looks good down there. The condition of the oil is just fine, so the engine is, performing well. We're not, we don't have any fuel dilution. We don't have any soot. Viscosity's holding up well. Base holds up really well. We have some weird kind of readings on wear metals.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying.
Again, boy, here we go. Guys, we've got 174,000 miles on this rebuild, and it looks like we have bearing issues. We've got both lead and copper.
And how many samples has he done? Is this something that's reoccurring, or were the other samples fine?
So if we go back to 2021, when we just had 65,000 miles on the oil, or on the in-frame itself, the rebuild, that's the oldest sample I have access to here. The history as lead was 11, 14, 27, 26, 27, and copper was 8, 8, 11, 12, and 12. So it's almost like we've been getting some bearing wear right from the beginning.
Were these genuine cap parts you put in?
Yes, sir. I rebuilt that engine August 2020.
One of the things I would do here, Norman, since you've gotten, 175,000 miles out of this oil and wear metals do accumulate, I think we need to see a new sample on new oil. So I have you changed the oil on this yet?
That's my third oil change, but I'm thinking about switching to.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. I want to be clear on something here. Do you has it been 174,000 miles since you changed the oil?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
okay.
That's my third oil change.
Oh, I see what you're saying. In 170, well, no, more than that. Since you've done the in-frame, there's been 3 oil changes, but the oil that's in it right now has 174,000 miles on it.
Correct.
Okay. Here's what I would do. I would change the oil right now. Let's reset and see what the sample looks like after we change it. Because wear metals do accumulate. And these have been accumulating for the last 5 samples. Let's see a new sample and see what's going on.
Okay. Kevin, is it the best way now to go to a synthetic 5W40 or just go for the
You could switch to
W40.
No, you could switch to synthetic. You'd be fine. That doesn't have any real impact on the bearings. If anything, I would go with Rotella just because it's got a lot of zinc in it, so it actually helps protect the bearings some. I'd switch to synthetic. That's not a problem. But then let's do your next. You know what? I would wait 25,000. Just do a full 25,000 mile sample after you change the oil.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. All right. Let's see here. I think we're going to wrap this up. Hey, Angie, if you could let Stan know, I see Stan's in here for the pit, that I'm going to restart, so he's going to have to call back in. And he can blame it on Aaron. Aaron wants me to restart. Just a couple things. We'll wrap this up, see if anybody else has anything. So I had mentioned earlier that Lisa sent me a picture of the back window shattered in the Sprinter. Bruce, it was done by a weed whacker.
Throw a rock.
Yeah, she was down at the warehouse. Yeah. Somebody was landscaping down there at the weed whacker and put a rock right through the back window.
Is she still in Ohio?
No, she's here now. She's right down at the warehouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's back home.
Wow.
I know. That's a big tinted window. What a pain that's going to be. Getting work done on anything right now is so hard, too. That's the biggest problem. One other thing, Bruce, I know you and I both started slalom skiing, and that was kind of what we did for years. And then I finally I used to laugh at people on wakeboards. I'm like, that's so stupid. Why would you do that? And then the first time I wakeboarded, I fell in love with it. I have got a new water sport.
What's that?
It is called wing foiling.
I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So you actually have a wing, like a kite wing kind of thing. It's inflatable. You inflate the leading edge of it, and you hold on to that kite. It has different handholds all over it, and you hold the kite in your hands, and then the wakeboard, they put a foil on the wakeboard. So it's a pole that comes down like the keel on a sailboat almost. And at the bottom of that pole, and the pole's, 2 or 3 feet, at the bottom of the pole is another wing that's underwater. And when you get enough speed and there's this rocking motion you do, the wakeboard itself comes off the surface of the water a foot or two, and you're riding on that hydrofoil that's underwater. You don't feel the water at all. There's no slap, there's no spray, there's no bounce. It is just perfectly smooth. And then if you want, you can use that foil, like you lean forward a little bit on your board, and your board will dive back down into the water. Then you lean back and it'll launch you out of the water. You can get all kinds of air with this thing.
Are you doing that in the Columbia?
Yes. Yeah, that's like the new thing here now.
When did you start this?
I haven't yet. I've been doing all the research, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to buy the wing, and you can actually use the wing on a stand-up paddleboard too. And I have a stand-up paddleboard, so I'm going to use that to practice because the board is really stable because you can just stand on it. And it's nice and stable, so I'll learn how to use the wing, and then I'll go get me a new wakeboard and a foil. Yeah,
Okay.
looks pretty interesting. So, all right.
Good for you. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're still young enough to do that.
Well, I don't know if I am or not, but I'm going to give it a try. We'll see. All right. Anybody have anything they want to close with today?
I still didn't get Charlie's pictures.
Okay. All right. Sounds like we're good. We're going to wrap this up. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.